Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm Clarisse Fortuné. Coming up on the program. Ebola is spreading beyond its original hotspot in the DRC. A new case has been detected nearly 600 kilometers away, raising fears about the outbreak's reach. We speak to Dr. Jean Kaseya, Director General of Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Another human rights catastrophe is unfolding in Sudan. That's from the UN sounding a red alert about possible atrocity crimes in the city of El-Obeid and calling on world leaders to do more to help stop the bloodshed in the country's ongoing war. At least 452 people have died to the Ebola virus in the Democratic Republic of Congo as of July. That's the latest according to the World Health Organization. Africa is confronting a series of public health challenges, from the latest Ebola outbreak in Central Africa to the growing threat of emerging infectious disease. At the same time, declining international aid is forcing countries to rethink how they finance healthcare and respond to emergencies. Jean Kaseya is with us. He's the Director General of Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So, Dr. Kaseya, welcome. Africa is once again responding to an Ebola outbreak, so more than 450 deaths. So how concerned should Africans be today?
Yes, this outbreak is serious. This is why yesterday Africa CDC managed to bring President Ramaphosa in DRC in his capacity as the African Union champion for pandemic preparedness, prevention, and response. I want to thank President Ramaphosa and President Tshisekedi for hosting a number of people. And today, we have to admit that this outbreak is serious, but we still have opportunity to control that. And this is why Africa CDC, working with other partners like WHO and others, we are at the same time supporting government to respond, but also we are moving with the clinical trials for treatment and vaccines.
So I was saying earlier that the virus is still spreading. There was one case confirmed in the town of Kisangani. So have we reached the peak yet? Or?
No, we didn't reach the peak yet, because where we are currently, you know, when you have this Ebola outbreak, what is critical is what we call the contact list. We need to make sure that all cases that we have are coming from the contact list. Currently, this is not the case. We have more than 60% of new cases coming from community. And also, we saw, yes, an improve on the way that the government is managing that. Now we move from 5,000 to 11,000, while we're expecting almost around 30,000 in the contact list. But I think with what we are putting in place, and I'm going back to Ituri with the minister to see how to reinforce the response, I think we'll make sure that by the end of the year we can stop with this outbreak.
And you're talking about Ituri, clinical trials have begun this week in Bunia, capital of Ituri. That's where the first cases involving the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola were confirmed. Tell us more about that trials.
Yeah, we have a number of trials. First, we are talking about treatment and we are talking about prophylaxis. The treatment, we are combining two drugs, Remdesivir and MBP 134. And this trial started, and I have to announce that today we enrolled the second patient. We are targeting 500 patients, and we think that by the end of the year, we can have a clear treatment for Ebola Bundibugyo. We are also working on the prophylaxis, because we want to prevent people who will be in contact with those who are sick to become sick. And that will start next week with a medicine we call Remdesivir. In addition to that, we are also working for vaccine. We have 4 candidate vaccine, and in August, we'll have the clinical trial phase 2 and 3 combined, and I hope by the end of the year, we'll have a vaccine.
So you think that by December, we'll have a vaccine for that strain?
It's a commitment. This is why Africa CDC is there. You know, for 19 years, we didn't have vaccine, we didn't have medicine, because we didn't have Africa CDC. Now we are there leading the health in Africa, working with our government, working with our partners, and we said we don't want to see again an outbreak in Africa and we start to beg for vaccines and medicines. It's time for us to push. We have a gap of 18 million. Yesterday, I announced 3 million coming from Africa CDC. DRC provided 3 million. We have still a gap of 12 million. We are talking to our partners. I say, let us play solidarity. But my commitment is clear. If we don't have money, we'll find money from Africa to finalize these clinical trials.
But you're talking about figures now, but didn't we receive as well some money from the World Bank, from the United Nations? Is not enough?
Look, we started with $581 million wanted to, but this 581 didn't include the humanitarian aspect. We saw that we have more than 1,105,000 people living in a camp. And these camps, these are where we start to get new cases. It means we need to consider humanitarian aspect for around $880 million. This is why we are talking now about $1.4 billion. Out of the $1.4 billion, we already collected $600 million, including $110 million from Africa. I think with what we already have, we start the response while we are continuing to see how the pledges made by partners can become real money.
And all of this money, how is it allocated?
This money coming from donors, it's allocated through many channels. Some of using it like UN organizations, OCHA, WHO, UNICEF, and others, using some international NGOs, using Africa CDC, some of them lending directly to countries. What we are doing currently is to have a kind of dashboard who is providing what, going where, through which channel, because we need to be accountable. Donors, implementing partners, and countries. I want to thank the Prime Minister of DRC who was in discussion with me yesterday to say DRC will apply 100% transparency, and this is what we want in Africa.
So what is your biggest challenge to contain this outbreak?
The first major challenge is the humanitarian aspect. You know, this is not like other outbreaks. Now with this humanitarian aspect, it's a major challenge. The second one is to have all aspect of the fight. It means the communication aspect. It means the safe safe and dignified barrier mechanism in place, and also to have the case management support in place. I think these are what we are putting in place to support the response to this outbreak.
And finally, you have often spoken about health sovereignty. Is that something the continent will achieve, do you think?
You know, I spoke about the $110 million. For me, when people are speaking about health sovereignty, it's not a narrative. Those who are speaking just as a narrative, they are wrong. Health sovereignty means acting and solidarity. And today, I want to thank all countries who already contributed $110 million. There is still room for others to participate. I'm in communication with a number of leaders. And I know my objective was to have 100 million. Now we can even move to 200 million coming from Africa. President Ramaphosa is bringing also the private sector. I think health sovereignty is a major agenda, and this is our motto. This is our objective for the continent.
Thank you very much, Jean Kaseya. We could discuss more and more. I have so many questions for you, but we don't have time. That's all we have time for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to Sudan now, with the United Nations sounding the alarm at an urgent session in Geneva, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk warned that civilians in and around the central city of El-Obeid could be facing a new wave of atrocities. As Sudan's brutal conflict enters its fourth year, Turk urged the international community to act, saying the warning signs are clear and unmistakable, and that another human rights catastrophe may already be unfolding. Bastien Renou has more.
The signs from El-Obeid are clear and unmistakable. There is a new human rights catastrophe unfolding in Sudan. These are the words of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. He says that it is a red alert that needs to land on the desk of every head of state and head of government around the world. So why are the United Nations so worried about the situation in the capital of North Kordofan? The city has been surrounded by the rapid support forces for months. There is just one road linking the city to Khartoum, the capital, and it's bombed daily by the rapid support forces. So for the civilians who want to escape, it's very risky to use this road. And for those who are still trapped in the city, it's more than 600,000 people. Life is very difficult at the moment. The city is bombed daily by drones, and they lack everything. They lack food and water, electricity and medicines. The situation is quite similar to what happened in El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur, last year. The city was besieged by the rapid support forces, and then when they took over in October last year, they killed at least thousands of civilians. So the UN are worried that such a bloodbath could take place again in Sudan. I've spoken to several human rights activists, Sudanese human rights activists, during the past days, and they say that it's not too late, that the international community can still put pressure on the RSF, and that the best option, according to them, is to sanction those who are supporting the rapid support forces, including foreign states such as the United Arab Emirates. But so far, no government has imposed a sanction.
And that concludes this edition. Thank you for watching Eye on Africa on France 24.